Does that come with kind of pressure or is it pride?
I would say more pride. Um, I think it depends how you look at it. And I try to take it in with as much gratitude as I possibly can, because I know not a lot of players are able to have this platform, and it's a blessing to have this support behind me. So yeah, I won't say that it comes without any pressure at all. But what I do is I just try to focus on what I need to do on court, how I can work to the best of my ability, and I know that I'll perform to the best that I can.
Intro 1. Oprah Winfrey publicly went after Alex Eala, and that turned out to be the biggest mistake she made all year, because Alex did not contact a publicist, did not release a carefully crafted statement, and did not remain silent. She replied with only 8 words. Just 8. And those 8 words set the internet on fire and left Oprah's side completely speechless. Here is exactly what took place. Do you think Alex Eala handled the situation perfectly, or did she cross the line? Share your honest opinion in the comments right now. Let's set the stage, because the context is important here, and the full story is far more interesting than the headlines.
It just everything clicked after that. And I look back at that moment and I just think, wow, like it was insane. And it's crazy to believe that actually happened.
Alex Eala has been having a moment. Not the kind of moment where someone gets lucky with one viral post and disappears 2 weeks later. The kind of moment that keeps building and building until brands start reaching out, stadiums begin selling out, and people who had never watched a tennis match in their lives suddenly know your name. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She left the Philippines as a teenager, flew to Spain, and fought her way through one of the toughest tennis development systems in the world. A junior Grand Slam title. The grind of the ITF circuit. Qualifying rounds in blistering heat far away from home. Ranking points earned one brutal match at a time. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, she also became a cultural phenomenon across Southeast Asia and far beyond. Her matches are selling out. Sponsors are lining up. Magazines want her on their covers. A teenager in Manila who never cared about tennis is suddenly watching because Alex Eala makes the sport feel like it belongs to them. That is not a small thing. That is exactly the kind of crossover influence that sports organizations spend hundreds of millions trying to create and almost never manage to achieve. So naturally, someone decided this needed to be torn down. Oprah Winfrey posted a public criticism of Alex Eala that nobody expected and absolutely nobody asked for. The post was not gentle. It was not a thoughtful media observation. It sounded like a prepared takedown. Oprah wrote that the buzz around Alex was not about exceptional tennis ability, but about image, viral personality, and spectacle. She described Alex as a symbol of distraction and emotional chaos and said that history remembers depth, not noise. Read that again slowly. Depth, not noise. Said about a young woman who left her home country as a teenager, trained on clay courts in Spain while dealing with homesickness and financial uncertainty, and fought her way into professional tennis without shortcuts or safety nets. Oprah called that noise. The internet did not stay quiet. Fan bases clashed. Sports journalists weighed in. Entertainment writers shared their opinions. Former athletes began choosing sides. Everyone was watching to see what Alex would do next, because that moment defines a person, not the attack but the response. Many young athletes in that position collapse under pressure. They release a statement written by lawyers that says nothing, offends no one, and allows the situation to disappear as quietly as possible. The public relations machine follows its usual routine. Protect the brand, avoid conflict with powerful people, and wait for the news cycle to move on. Alex Eala did none of that. She responded immediately in her own words with no committee and no filter. She said she had never chased fame and that the attention surrounding her came from years of struggle, hard work, community effort, and real people who see themselves in her journey. She said that while Oprah focused on inspiring audiences, she focused on protecting dreams, lifting the broken, and proving that opportunity is real no matter where someone comes from. She added that being visible is not a crime and that it happens when you speak from your scars and try to turn pain into purpose. Then she ended her response with 8 words that the entire internet instantly remembered. My legacy is built on courts, not couches. That sentence landed like a 130-mile-per-hour serve straight into an empty box. Clean, impossible to return, final. In 8 words, Alex created the sharpest possible contrast between their two worlds. Oprah has spent decades building wealth and influence by sitting across from other people, listening to their stories, and presenting those stories to a television audience. That is a legitimate and powerful role. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But there is a clear difference between talking about struggle from a studio couch and living it on hard courts far from home with a racket in your hand and a ranking that does not care about your feelings. Alex did not say Oprah's work was meaningless. She simply said her own work happens somewhere else. And she said it in a way that was precise, confident, and impossible to argue with. The reaction was immediate. Fellow players began liking the post, not commenting because athletes are trained to be cautious but liking it, which in the current media environment is its own form of statement. Former champions who had spent years dealing with the same old narrative that a young woman's marketability somehow weakens her athletic credibility openly supported her. The hashtag pain into purpose started trending worldwide and completely hijacked the conversation Oprah had tried to create. Oprah's camp went silent. No response, no clarification, no follow-up, only silence. And that silence is very loud when you think about it. Oprah Winfrey is not someone who usually stays quiet when challenged. She has been in the public eye for decades and has handled much larger controversies with clarity and speed. The fact that her team chose not to respond suggests one of two possibilities. Either they genuinely had no good answer to those 8 words, or they calculated the strength of Alex Eala's fanbase and decided pushing the issue further was not a battle worth fighting. Either way, it tells you something important. Now let's talk about why Oprah's original post struck such a nerve, because it did not appear in a vacuum. It arrived in the middle of a very old and very exhausting conversation about young female athletes and what they are allowed to be. This script has been recycled for decades. Anna Kournikova was one of the best doubles players in the world and a genuine top 10 singles competitor, yet the media in the late 1990s reduced her to her appearance and used her commercial success as evidence that she was not serious. Maria Sharapova spent her entire career defending the idea that winning 5 Grand Slam titles was legitimate and not somehow cancelled out by being famous. Emma Raducanu won the US Open without dropping a single set through both qualifying and the main draw, one of the most extraordinary achievements in modern sports history, and the moment she signed endorsement deals the media began questioning her commitment to tennis. The pattern is always the same. A young woman becomes successful. The same young woman becomes marketable. Someone suggests that the marketability proves the success is not authentic. The athlete is forced to defend something that should never have needed defending. Oprah's post matched this pattern so closely that it almost felt like a template. Alex's viral personality is a distraction. Her spectacle replaces substance. Being everywhere is not the same as mattering. What Oprah missed, and this is the part many traditional media gatekeepers continue to miss, is that the entire playbook has changed. The old model worked like this. You had a story. A publicist pitched it to a producer. An executive approved it. Oprah invited you to her couch. Then you had a platform. The couch was the gateway. The couch was the validator. If Oprah or someone like her decided your story deserved attention, it was told. If not, it disappeared. Alex Eala does not need a couch. She points a camera at herself, speaks from real experience, posts it to millions of people who have been waiting for exactly that voice, and the platform builds itself. No executive approval required. No gatekeeping. No couch. When Alex talks about saving dreams and lifting the broken, she is not speaking in motivational poster language. She is describing what happens when a young girl from a developing country with limited resources watches someone who looks like her competing at the highest level of an expensive sport dominated by wealthy backgrounds and thinks maybe that is possible for her too. That is not noise. That is one of the most meaningful impacts sports can create. The fact that it also produces followers and sponsorships is not a contradiction. It is the point. Those followers and sponsorships give Alex financial independence and leverage to keep doing it on her own terms rather than relying entirely on prize money and the goodwill of tournament organizers. And here is the part that makes Oprah's criticism especially ironic. Oprah Winfrey's entire career was built on exactly this principle. She told her own story. She spoke openly about her pain. She created a platform that connected with people who had never seen themselves represented in mainstream media. She turned personal struggle into cultural influence and financial power. That is not criticism. That is a description of her brilliance. But apparently that formula only works when Oprah approves of the person using it. The WTA is going through a transition right now that requires exactly what Alex Eala brings. Serena Williams retired and left a gap that no single player can fill alone. The tour needs a constellation of stars who each attract different audiences, generations, and cultures. Aryna Sabalenka dominates on court. Coco Gauff carries her own cultural influence. Iga Swiatek is statistically relentless. But none of them is currently generating the level of crossover attention in Southeast Asia, where hundreds of millions of potential tennis fans live, that Alex is creating. The sport does not need its rising players to stay quiet and invisible away from the court to prove they are serious. It needs them to be exactly what Alex is: compelling, authentic, and connected to communities that traditional sports media ignored for a long time. There is a teenager in Manila right now watching Alex Eala and thinking about picking up a racket for the first time. That teenager is not being reached through traditional tennis broadcasting. They are not watching Wimbledon coverage on cable television. They are on their phone watching Alex's posts and feeling like the sport suddenly belongs to them. That is not a distraction from tennis. That is the future of tennis. Oprah, of all people, should understand what it means to be the first person who looks like you entering a space that was never designed for you. She should understand what it does to a community when someone from within that community rises to visible success in a world that historically kept the door closed. She built an empire on that understanding. Yet somehow when Alex Eala does it in real time on her own terms with her own phone and her own voice, the verdict becomes that she is producing noise. Let's return to those 8 words because they deserve another look. My legacy is built on courts, not couches. The line is not angry. It does not insult anyone. It does not exaggerate or perform outrage. It simply states a fact with absolute clarity. Alex knows what her work is, where it happens, and what it costs. And she is not interested in having that work judged by someone who has never had to return a 100-mile-per-hour serve in the deciding set of a qualifying match while carrying the expectations of an entire nation. The court does not care about television ratings. It does not care about production budgets, magazine covers, or daytime Emmy Awards. The court only cares about whether you can compete. And Alex Eala has spent years proving again and again that she can. Oprah's silence since those 8 words appeared has lasted longer than many people expected. The woman who built a career on always knowing what to say and when to say it seems to have decided there is no effective reply to courts, not couches. And honestly, that may be the most revealing part of this entire situation. Because when a young tennis player from the Philippines leaves one of the most powerful media personalities in the world with nothing to say, that is not noise. That is a statement. Alex Eala walked into a conflict she did not start and finished it with 8 words. Whether you believe Oprah was out of line or simply being honest, one thing is certain. Alex is not someone who shrinks under pressure either on the court or away from it. Hit like if you enjoyed this and subscribe so you never miss a video like this.